This is the Between Part 4. We are down a player, so this might be a slightly shorter session than usual, but let's grab a link, and that's the character keeper if you need it. And I'm going to do a recap. If you want to follow along, I'm on the Threats tab. So last time you resolved the St. James's Street ghost in what I can only describe as a very, very action-packed sequence with all the characters. The St. James's Street ghost is no longer a threat. You still have 2 active threats, one of which you've done a fair amount of work on. The other you haven't done any work on at all, as best I can tell. The Limehouse Lurker is our small vampire, our pipsqueak vampire story. Threshold question: is the vampire young or old? Because depending on the answer, the vampire has to be dealt with differently. That's complexity 4. And you have 4 clues. As a bit of a reminder, Jenny Johnston, a proprietor of an opium den in Limehouse, is who brought this case to you. There have been 3 bodies that were found in recent days, and all drained of their blood. And Jenny is keeping the bodies in her basement because she's hesitant to go to the police or to the papers because she thinks it might unfairly have blowback against the Chinese immigrant community, which she is a part of and a sort of informal leader of. And so we have 4 clues for that first threshold question for the Limehouse Lurker. The other threat that is active is the Nutcracker. I think all we did was introduce this last time. I don't think we actually made any progress on the Nutcracker, right? But this is a big one. This is unlike the Limehouse Lurker. This one's all over the city because ballet dancers are turning up murdered in quite gruesome ways and frozen and posed around the city in different places, and they've all been gelded. It's every element of the story. It's happening during Christmas season. It's ballet dancers. It's a sort of like art installation. The fact that they're gelded, it's all just like catnip for the papers, right? So this is a really, really different sort of investigation as opposed to the Limehouse Lurker, which is it's just a few people who know about this, right? So that's what we know about the Nutcracker. I'm pretty sure nothing happened with the Nutcracker, right? Is there anything I'm forgetting? I don't think even any clues happened. Yeah. Well, things do not slow down in Hargrave House because there'll be a 3rd threat in a bit. Let's go to the hunters themselves. So Burnright, you currently have the Sons of Another World condition and the Mask of the Tiger, which is interesting. Mr. Goodfellow's not with us, but he has marked by Madame Gagnon and burned. Oh, Madame Gagnon, she happened from the Nutcracker last time. She's the trainer of the ballet dancers. She actually made like a kind of proposal to Mr. Goodfellow to stop by the studio sometime. So something did happen with that one, but kind of quickly. And Ms. Sand, you have burned also, and Julius has my scent. What's going on with Julius? I can't remember.
Oh, we keep on bumping into him all over London. Like, Goodfellow and Burnright had an very encounter, and then Mags was like, it's time to...
I'm gonna go sit in his lap, right? Isn't that what happened?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I will say, I did not do that. Ms. Sand did that.
Ms. Sand did that, yes.
I mean, tracked the vampires to their den and then just sat there.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was quite a striking moment too. Anyway, that's what's going on with the characters. Anything else that we need to be reminded of before we dive into our little dynamic duo session today?
I didn't realize we have an abundant number of clues to answer that first Limehouse Lurker question.
You can, and you don't have to use them all either. You can just use some of them if you wish, because you can save the clues for the next question as well. Yeah, we can, whenever you want to answer that. If you have a theory for it, just let me know.
What do you say, Burnright?
All right.
Oh, answering a question right now? Let's do it.
Well, to be fair, I have to think because once again, I'm without an employer.
Your dodgy employers who are leave you to your own devices. You're quite an independent factotum, all things considered. Well, so what do we think? What's the answer?
I think the vampire is old, personally. And the clue that makes me think that the most is just a faded fresco from the Roman era. I think that was from the vampire's youth. And then the question is also, how long has the vampire been in London? And what has the vampire been doing? Right, if the vampire is old, what has the vampire been doing in London for all this time? And I think the vampire has been hanging out in churches. And so the massive swarm of bats accompanies the vampire because he will roost in belfries.
Oh, the belfry, yeah, okay.
And that's also why nuns were a problem. And so the nun from the rafters of the opium den was there because she startled him.
Yeah, that's the nun clue is great, right? Because I don't think a young vampire would have been able to get the nun up in the rafters.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's a big, context clue for sure.
Yeah, I think, just to put my 2 cents on it, I think it has less to put like whether or not a young vampire could have gotten the body up there. Like, I think irregardless whether it's young or old, I don't think that actually matters, but rather it's the context of like the position of being a nun, especially since like with the other clue of like chastising someone for their poor moral choices. It sounds like this this vampire is old and religious of some sort.
Interesting.
Oh, that's an interesting angle. Oh, intriguing.
Especially if it's like in the belfry, because like according to a lot of the tropes, like vampires really can't go in churches, but like it seems like in this world that they can.
Yeah.
It's just more or less that it's just personal preference, really.
I, as San, think that there's definitely something up with this vampire that relates to other gods that aren't the Christian gods. So I like the suggestion that the vampire is religious, but we don't know what religion.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that might be part of like the future question, right? Because this one is just a pretty straightforward, is it young or old, right? So I think the first one definitely speaks to that. I like how you're basically saying that like the vampire has been around long enough to have made a home at a church, and that's at the belfry, which explains the bats.
Yeah.
It's apparently very prudish in its way, and the victim. The thing about the victim is, I could see that clue being used to say, to have something to do about like its motives, but I think for it to apply to its age might be a different thing. I don't know. I think like my thoughts about like just the power of the vampire to do it implies an older vampire, right? So if you want to hold on to that one, you can, but otherwise, because I think it's a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Do you want to roll it, Kat?
Sure. Are we using this clue or we're holding it off
it's up
for
to
the
you.
second?
Yeah.
How lucky do you feel? Because I don't know. It's a -1 without this, so.
I think a -1 is fine here.
Okay. Probably should roll it in my dice tray rather than on the desk and then have it toss on the floor. Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered anyways because that is a 5 -1. That's a 4.
So it's wrong, and I will make a strong reaction. So yeah. So here's the thing. When it's a threshold question like this, You can just be wrong, in which case that actually answers the question, but like not by anything you did. But the real penalty is me reacting really strongly from the miss. If you want to avoid that, you need to mark and also keep your theory. You both have to mark Janus Mask.
I'm fine with either way. I've seen this threat played out with an older vampire every time, so I'm fine with it being young.
I think a strong reaction is fun, so I'm also fine either way. You said you've seen it played out with an old vampire every time?
Yeah, mostly just because of lines and veils with my groups. They don't want harm against children, so.
Cool.
But however,
let's have the vampire be young then.
Mhm.
We have no strictures on that here. Okay, so these clues are still available then, and the vampire is young. That unlocks the next question, which is, what was the child's home life like before they returned? Let's mark that down. And that's a complexity 4. And it allows you to resolve the threat by luring the vampire into a scene reminiscent of its home life and then destroying it or making arrangements for it to safely feed on a regular basis. So you can actually solve that one without having to hurt the child vampire, right? So all of your clues are available for that. Regrettably, you don't get the Dawn question credit for answering a question at the end, but you are actually closer to resolving the threat. But I think this is going to be a really, really hard. Lots of hard things are going to happen as a result of that miss, and I'm looking forward to that. So let's talk about the day phase. I did promise you a new threat because that's what we do here. And our new threat is called... Our new threat is called the Whateley Camera. You can follow along if you wish on the threat sheet. The Hargrave House library contains research on the so-called Whateley Camera, one of the first wet plate type cameras ever produced. People who are photographed by the camera have been known to disappear without a trace. An American scientist and philosopher, Atticus Whateley, studied the camera for a number of years and proposed that it was some sort of entity, a demon, or even a god, and that the people who went missing had been transported to another dimension. Whateley advanced an idea called the Fragrant Void, a sort of proto-Earth that existed in near total darkness and that was home to powerful entities who were banished by God on the first day of creation. He believed some of those entities could still operate in our world, hidden from view, perhaps through common objects like the camera. While his research couldn't prove the existence of the Fragrant Void, he did manage to show how the camera caused people to be whisked away to another dimension. Unfortunately, before he could present his work for review, he was killed, his notes were destroyed, and the camera went missing. 1 week ago, a beautiful actress, Penelope Levy, disappeared. She was last seen at the Society Obscura, an exclusive and secretive club for wealthy photography enthusiasts, located in a converted townhouse in Kensington. Now, a missing actress wouldn't merit attention from Hargrave House if not for the fact that her lover, Bert Broadswell, sent the hunters one of the pictures taken of her at the Society Obscura. Do either of you have the cosmic passage marked?
Don't think so.
In that case, I shall ask Ms. Sound. Ms. Sound, something unusual about the photo unmistakably confirms it was taken with the Whateley camera. What is it?
So it looks like sorry for zoning out. I'm trying to remember when daguerreotypes transferred to paper print, which is not necessarily a relevant bit of history. So it looks like a standard black and white daguerreotype. However, when you tilt the plate to the sides, you can see that the edges of the ink are stained red, almost as if it was printed in blood instead of with the normal nickel reaction. It is a nickel, whatever. The normal chemical reaction that makes the receipt photoreceptive.
And yeah, that's great. I love it. And so this is a documented thing about the Whateley Camera, because as we know, Hargrave House has a fair amount of archival research about the Whateley Camera. So that's what's interesting to Hargrave House. I mean, getting the actress back, sure, but it's actually just the existence of the Whateley Camera that's the intriguing thing. Nevertheless, we have one single question here. It is a complexity 8, and that question is, what circumstances will cause someone photographed by the camera to disappear? This unlocks 2 opportunities rather than just one. The first opportunity is that you can resolve the threat by reversing the process and bringing Penelope Levy back to this world. Fine. Or you can use the camera to transport yourself to the Fragrant Void and make contact with the entity there. Doing so gives you access to a custom move called Void Walker. Now, only the first one actually resolves the threat, right? The second one is just giving you access to Void Walker and the Fragrant Void. But in any case, both opportunities unlock when the question's answered, and both can be pursued. We'll talk about the custom move Void Walker if you unlock it. Do we have an aspect of the Janus mask here? No, we do not. There's no aspect of the Janus mask on this particular thread. And so, with 3 very hot and interesting threats, one of which is very, very hot because it's the rage in all the city, and a former resident of Hargrave House, Rabbi Rebecca Solomon, has asked you all to help. That's the Nutcracker, is ongoing. And so, with all that said, Ms. Sand, what are you going to do today?
I think it is time for me to become a patron of the arts one way or another. And so I think I would like to go check out the ballet and see what I can see.
Yeah, sounds good. Burnright?
Well, since last time, Mr. Goodfellow did sort of sign me up for the ballet, question mark?
I don't recall. Oh, I think Mr. Goodfellow was going to go to the studio. I think we can still have that studio scene with once Sasha gets back, if you all want to like go do other things related to it. Yeah, like the actual theater is fine, right?
Yeah, I think actually I'll hold off on that idea, and I think I've got to go to the Limehouse district and try to, well, just ask around, see what sorts of places children have been seen lately, because like there's been a lot of murders there recently, and it seems like these are the hunting grounds of the vampire.
Your best bet is probably the Limehouse School, which is a workhouse for children, because one of the victims was found near there, Charlie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'll head there.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, sounds great to me. Let me take a look at. Yeah. Okay, I think we're in good shape. Let's start with the Royal Ballet. So, Covent Garden, home of the Royal Ballet and Opera. It is a very large, overwhelming space, Ms. Sand. You have pretty free run of it right now because of the murders, there are no shows being put on. Everything's kind of on pause. In fact, Rabbi Solomon's very worried that the annual Christmas performance of the Nutcracker is not going to take place because of the murders, which is something that she's very concerned about as a patron of the arts herself. But Covent Garden is overwhelming. It's a temple to the muses. We're told in the incursion that there are orphans praying for salvation outside, and toothy icicles are melting around the edges, appearing to salivate. We have a rather complex paint the scene here, but I love it. It is this. In 1728, John Rich raised capital to build the theater through the success of the play The Beggar's Opera, which satirized Italian opera at the time. What subversive or satirical elements of opera do you see that reflect this history in theater?
I imagine in the woodwork that there's these sort of intricate drawings of like sort of like you imagine like sort of the Valkyries and that sort of thing, but like there's subtle imagery of like just like very crude jokes of like just like sort of like puns like in sort of like in like a famous play. I don't know any plays. There's like sort of like a character who's a bit mean and rude, but then he's like been sort of given the sort of head of an ass, and just like that sort of thing is just prevalent throughout this theater.
I love it.
There's a gauche wooden sculpture in the lobby that holds like in one hand a sign that says we're always looking for new sopranos, audition here. And the wooden sculpture is of an old woman who is holding her hand out like in a claw shape right at testicle height.
I love it. It's great. So, Ms. Sand, I'll give you the kind of lay of the place. You can decide what you want to do. On the stage, which is currently decorated for the Nutcracker Ballet, and the curtains are wide open so you can see. There are just a couple of stage lights lit, and you can see a young dancer, very young, probably like not more than 12 or 13 years old, practicing on stage, very seemingly very much caught up in their own world. And even though there's no show being put on right now because of the murders, you do hear some people in the back, probably stagehands or people who work at the theater as well. But I think when you come in, you're sort of like just coming in from the lobby, looking out across the stage from the audience seats. What do you do?
I think I want to walk around to just inside the back exit. So I, knowing only the basics about ballet, know that it is an abusive practice for the feet of young ballerinas, and that it is not uncommon for their ballet shoes to become soaked with blood, especially their practice ballet shoes. And so I think the place where the veil is likely to be thinnest for me to perform my particular expertise is somewhere where there might be a pile of such shoes, such as where ballerinas would come in and out from the street for breaks. So
that's good. I like it. So this is not the space where generally the ballerinas and the ballet dancers actually practice. I think this particular boy on stage is kind of an outlier. But having said that, his things are chucked to the side near the orchestra pit, and you can even see, like, I think he's actually taken off his soaked ballet shoes and is dancing barefoot. They are soaked with blood. What do you do?
So I think I am going to walk over to such shoes and sprinkle them with I think just soda powder that I keep with me that makes the shoes foam, the tips of the shoes foam just a little bit. And I am trying to freshen the blood such that I can still use rites of salt and smoke. And I realize this is probably actually just an information move with sensitivity and not full rites of salt and smoke. So what I want to do is reach out with my senses and see what's happening spiritually in this place.
I think it's probably rites of salt and smoke, especially the way you
Okay.
described it. Especially if you make the blood sacrifice offering.
Yeah.
Right? Go ahead
So
and roll
maybe
that
what
way.
I'm really
Yeah.
trying to do is observe another place or time,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to observe the night before the most recent sculpture was found.
I think that's great. Go ahead and roll with sensitivity.
Sensitivity is now at 3. Sorry, I started a dice off with my partners. So I'm using new metal dice and I have to wrench them out of my the case they came in.
Oh, I was just thinking of something while Mags is getting that sorted. Was Theodora around for the resolution of the St. James's Street ghost? Or am I thinking
Not
of a different
during the
campaign?
resolution.
Yeah.
She had left a card the
That's
night
right.
before.
Right.
Yeah.
But we didn't see her otherwise, right?
No,
We have yet to see her.
she just missed us.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, good.
Mhm.
So what was it I rolled?
I rolled an 8.
8. Very good. So you have to take complication as well. Which complication do you want?
I actually think I want to take a condition that will fill me up, and so I will probably be looking to engage in some evening antics with burn rate.
Sounds good. I love it. Let's get you a clue. So, and we'll figure out the condition in a moment. Actually, I'll just come back to that for a bit. Let's go to burn right for now. Burn right. The Limehouse School is a workhouse, which is basically a place where, in this particular one, is a place where they are storing poor children who don't have anywhere else to go and teaching them, but teaching just means making them work. So the Limehouse School is, well, let's talk about it. I think it's one of our locations. It is. It's filthy, and there are filthy children all over the place. You see a frustrated mistress storming away from a group of girls who are busy learning not to sew. There's also a very strong smell of unwashed bodies, and you can see all of this just from like kind of stepping into the courtyard area, kind of looking in and around, you know, both looking into the building and also the kids that are kind of doing things out in the courtyard area. It's very, very kind of a chaotic situation, actually. Paint the scene, everyone. Workhouses like this are where poor children are sent to be managed until they're old enough to be turned out. What signs of deprivation do we see?
There is only one set of doors going in and out of the workhouse. That is it. If those doors got shut, there was a fire, there would have been a very terrible tragedy here.
The only children who have any amount of bulk to their frame is if they've been fed healthy amounts of food. And what I'm talking about is no one shows any sign of getting more food than they need. I just mean some children are getting what they need and some children are not. And the only children that are getting what they need are the ones that show promise of great beauty.
So, Burnright. Oh, there's Sasha.
Aha. Yes.
Hello, Mr. Goodfellow. Can you hear us?
Hey, very sorry about that.
No worries. We're kind of in the middle of the investigation, but we'll get you caught up in a moment.
Thank you.
So, Burnright, you are at the Limehouse School, and there is a direct connection to the Limehouse School to the Limehouse Lurker, which is this. Charla Bell, a young mother who worked at the school, was found dead behind the school, drained of her blood. So you have that little bit of an entree. But bear in mind that no one around here thinks she's dead because these murders are not public knowledge yet. So what do you do?
I'm going to ask around. Basically, I'm trying to pose myself as a private investigator because Charlotte Bell has been missing for a few days, I assume. Like,
It has been a few days at this point.
yeah, so we're just trying to find her last known location, and I'm pretty sure she worked in this area.
And so who are you asking? The mistress, the sort of headmistress, or the woman who was with the kids?
Headmistress, because I think that's like the first person I see, really,
Yeah.
that's of any authority.
She'll say, and who should I say is asking? Or who should I gather as asking?
Burnright.
Well, Burnright, what is your connection to Ms. Bell?
Just a hired private investigator.
Oh, I see. Do you have some sort of credentials to that effect?
I think I pull out a business card that says Burnright, Hargrave House, private investigation.
I like it. I think this is the day move because you're clearly lying. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail right now?
I'm afraid that because like my previous employer did get arrested for grave robbery, my name may have came up in the papers of like, oh yes, this person was associated with them. So I think I'll be just mistrusted because of that.
Very good. And I think this is going to be with composure. Yeah, take it away.
Thank God my composure is a 1. That would be 7 total.
I have to tell you how you'll be vulnerable, and then you can decide whether you want to go through with this or not. The way you'll be vulnerable is this woman will go to Scotland Yard after you're done here, and just register a concern about you with them. If you're okay with that, you still get to do your investigation as you wish, but if you're okay with her going to report you later, then by all means proceed.
Absolutely not, because I don't think that's the most interesting thing that can happen right now. So I'm just going to mark the cosmic passage because, well, frankly, someone needs to get old bones at this point.
Yeah, well, I should, let me be a little more clear and precise. She was going to go to Scotland Yard about Charla Bell because your presence looking for her might indicate to her that there's something going on with Charla Bell. They thought she just left for a few days or something.
Yeah,
right? So,
I know what you meant. I don't want Scotland Yard to be involved. I rather deal with those more supernatural things with this threat rather than the mundane things with this threat.
I just want to make it clear that I wasn't talking about, she wasn't suspicious of you specifically, just the situation. So yeah, if you're marking Janus Mass, then you're free and clear. So she says, Well, that's yes, of course. We certainly are. Well, I didn't know Charlebel myself very well. She had only worked here for a short time, but certainly we miss the help. Anything we can do to help out. I probably would not question the children too closely. They tend to be very addle-brained and distracted about things. I'm not sure how much help they could be, but you can nevertheless take a look around. I shall inform the headmaster of the school, Mr. Chesterfield. I shall let him know that you are here conducting this, your investigation on behalf of Miss Bell's family.
Mhm.
And then she kind of just escorts you in, and that's that. We'll come back to that. I'm going to pause the video briefly while I explain to Sasha, while I get Sasha caught up so that people watching the video don't have to watch that. Well, now that we have Mr. Goodfellow, Burnright has gone off investigating the Limehouse lurker, and Ms. Sand is at the Royal Ballet investigating the Nutcracker threat. What are you doing?
Since the other two are covered, maybe I'll drop by the Society Obscura to kind of find out what they're all about.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Let's do that. The Society Obscura is a private club for wealthy photography enthusiasts. And Hargrave House believes that the Society Obscura currently has have in their possession the legendary Whateley Camera. And there was an actress that went missing who was allegedly photographed by the Whateley Camera. And so that's sort of the fulcrum of this particular investigation. But Hargrave House's real interest is in the camera, not so much the disappeared actors, but you can decide what you want there. In any case, I think when you arrive at the Society Obscura, it's a converted townhouse. It's a townhouse that's been converted to be like kind of a half business space, sort of. And it has a sign out front that says Society Obscura, established 18 whatever. And yeah, what do you do?
So it's not like a secret society.
No. You can go right up and ring the bell.
I do so.
When you ring the bell, you hear there's a pause, and then you hear a pitter-patter of feet, bare feet running up to the door, and then the door is opened. And on the other side of it is a young man, very pretty, probably maybe not your level of pretty, but very pretty. He's currently wearing a little like a sort of like little Greek god costume, a little short toga or whatever, and an olive. Oh, he's got the little olive crown in his head, like you have sometimes, and his body has been dusted with silvery pigment. And he says, and he looks at you and says, "Oh, hello. You must be here to. The Abernethys didn't tell me that they had a new model stopping by."
I think Robin lights up a little bit seeing this guy. It's like, oh, maybe this job's going to be more fun than I thought it would be. And then I think he just runs to like, oh, yes, the Abernethys called me in, and I have a very busy schedule. I'm expected in Milan. I decided to take a little bit of time to, model for you guys.
Oh, that's wonderful. Please come in. I'm Periwinkle Underwood, just a general dog's body houseboy. I don't like servant. Please come in. We're currently in the middle of a very, very dramatic session in the Olympus Room. I'm supposed to ask you to wait here in the foyer, but if you wanted to sneak over and take a look at what we were doing, I'm sure no one would mind.
That sounds delightful.
And he goes off and subtly points you to the direction of the Olympus Room that he's going to. most of the house, if you just peek into a couple of doors, most of the house has been converted to be like little studios, like they're like little like artistic photography spaces, basically, right? Organized around a different theme each time. In the Olympus Room, the room has been decorated to look like a scene from Greek myth. And you see several people, probably about half a dozen people in various states of, Greek mythological dress, posing, and they have a camera there, and you hear the sort of sizzle of the flash powder, as they do these different scenes. And I think I just want to do a little paint the scene here. As you step into this room, assuming you step in, Mr. Goodfellow, the Greek pantheon is actually watching you in this room right now. Everyone, how do we know? It's subtle, of course.
I think maybe on the wall there's a mural of like a white bull that's clearly intended to be Zeus.
The room is a bit too warm for like London currently. And there's just the smell of just fresh, like a sea breeze.
In the winter, that's unusual, especially in the city.
The hallway leading into this room is stained from hard use. There's both notable foot traffic and the dust and wearing from feet, as well as obviously there have been a lot of parties here, and so we see the splashes of drinks. But it's almost as if the floor in this room has been replaced, even though it's completely contiguous with carpet outside. That this room is unusually clean, and it's a very clear demarcation between the wear of the hall and the cleanliness of this room.
Intriguing. We'll check back in with you in a moment, Mr. Goodfellow. I'm going to go back over to Ms. Sand. So, Ms. Sand, you used the bloody shoes of this boy dancing on the empty stage at the theater as an offering to glimpse. Essentially, you wanted to glimpse like the sculptor doing their work, like last, right? Like the last victim of the sculptor. And I will tell you this. The scene is the clue. The scene that you see is very dark. You're in some kind of dark space. And I think you are perhaps viewing the scene maybe from the point of view of the victim. And a polar bear lumbers by, and you feel the fear that the dancer felt, indicating this is no mirage or illusion. There's a whole ass polar bear. And you feel cold. Wherever you're at, it's a really cold, dark place, very dimly lit, and there's a polar bear. That's your clue. Here's the complication. You see the sculptor. The sculptor is mostly occluded in shadow, but their teeth, which are very large and bright white and clenched very, very tight, sort of are visible in the shadow. And the sculptor speaks through these very like almost violently clenched teeth. The sculptor says, "Oh, you are so beautiful. I have rarely seen such a magnificent example of the human form, of the male human form. It seems such a shame that you will someday wither, that you will someday no longer be this statue, this perfect expression of masculinity." The complication is he looks up over the victim's shoulder and he makes direct eye contact with you, Miss Sand. And he says, "And what is this? Who are you? Interloper." Take the condition marked by the sculptor.
All these menacing people have my scent.
And let's note your clue. The sculptor has a polar bear. Back to Burnright. So Burnright, you have the run of the place. Everything's as we've described: filthy children running around, teachers trying to get them to do their work, that sort of thing. What do you do?
I basically, as we sort of pass through and going further into the buildings, meet with the headmaster, I'm running my fingers along the walls, and I think like a bit like like my hands are a little bit stained yellow a little bit, and I like it's like as I read it, like there's a slow line being trailed behind me of frog wax, and I'm going to use old bones.
So you have the cosmic passage mark now.
Yes.
Ah, very good. I love it. Let's read Old Bones. It says, this is the move that you got from the St. James's Street Ghost. When you have the cosmic passage marked and touch, listen to, or otherwise attune to a building's architectural details, roll sensitivity, please.
Yeah, I'm marking frog wax to gain advantage on this.
Yeah, very good.
That's fantastic. That is a 10.
Very nice. The move says, on a hit, a ghost will appear and answer a single question you pose to it or perform a small task, your choice. Any answers it gives can be in the form of a clue at my discretion. On a 10 plus, as above, and the ghost will not ask for anything in return. So you're free and clear. I want to just put that there for a moment and check back in briefly with Mr. Goodfellow. Mr. Goodfellow, you're in this like scene, this like quite dramatic mythological scene, which you have these strange feelings, right, as described by the paint the scene answers. And Periwinkle, the young houseboy who let you in, he keeps like kind of looking back to see if you actually followed, right? What are you doing right now?
I think I'm just standing in the doorway, kind of looking at the scene before me. Are the people there? They're just dressed up in like old Greek fashion, posing.
Yeah, but they're like gods and goddesses, so they're
Okay.
like painted, and they look like more dramatic than just like regular old ancient Greeks.
I think I go up to Periwinkle and just sort of whisper in his ear, what do we have here? What's going on?
He says, "Oh, well, I don't have much time to talk. I'm the sort of I'm the main attraction. I'm the central figure in this particular composition we're about to do." And he leaves you and goes to this sort of like actual photography space, and he kind of steps up on this little dais, and there's like this like a lyre little instrument is put in his hands. Someone hands him a lyre, and he's like posing with this lyre, like he's playing it. And the other people in the scene are like posing as if they're listening to this beautiful music, right? And what are you doing in the meantime?
Is there any more costumes kind of lying around?
Sure.
I want to try and quickly put on a toga and steal Periwinkle's spotlight.
Oh, very good. So what do you do? Just like once you kind of put this on, do you just like sort of are you also wearing your little crown that you wear sometimes?
I think so, yeah.
Very good.
I think maybe just before the shutter goes off, I like come up and like put my arms around Periwinkle, like so I'm kind of like commanding him almost.
I love it. This is
in a
day
dominant
move.
position. Yeah.
This is a day move for sure. What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve or fail, I guess?
I'm afraid that I'll be embarrassed, which I think is the worst thing Robin can experience.
I think that's probably right. Go ahead and I wonder if your burns are visible right now.
Oh, they are. Yeah, that would affect it.
I would roll with disadvantage then. And yeah, so let's have that. It's going to be
right.
Presence.
I got it. Ooh. That is with presence 6, 9. It's actually still 11.
Wow, very good.
I got 2 6s and a 3.
It works completely. Describe how you become the center of attention here.
I think, as sort of imagine the picture developing, and it just looks like, I'm in the center of the scene, and it seems like almost like a Last Supper sort of thing, where I think everyone, all the gods, they turn their attention to me at the last minute instead Periwinkle.
I love it. Let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back and pick up these scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pick up with Burnright. Burnright. This is the first time you've done Old Bones.
Mhm.
Are you expecting for a ghost to appear? Is this just a theory that you're testing? What you're thinking as you do this?
It's sort of a theory I'm testing. My microphone is far too away. Far too away. Okay, there we go. Because ever since the 18th St. James District ghost, things have felt a little different in Hargrave House in particular. I've been noticing like certain rugs being like upturned and like mirrors showing reflections of things that aren't quite there, sort of foggy almost, no matter how much I try to clean them. And I imagine when Miss Sand actually gave me the frog's wax, and like I imagine she said something like, "Oh yes, this will be helpful down the line, Burnright." I just have a theory that this is what she meant.
You will notice that there is a girl, probably about 9 or 10 years old, say, and she keeps trying to insert herself with groups of the children. If there's a group of children laughing, she keeps trying to see like what they're laughing at and trying to laugh along with them, but they never notice her. There may be a group of children playing a game, and she keeps asking if she can join the game, and they just literally don't notice her. And she's just going around to all these groups of children, trying to get the children to pay attention to her, to include her. And it's like she doesn't exist. She's invisible, inaudible, but you can see her, you can hear her. What do you do?
I'm gonna approach her.
She looks up and she says, "Can you see me?"
Yes. I'm very sorry that no one else can.
It's all right. It's been that way for a long time.
I've came here because there's been There was a young child here not too long ago, possibly a few days ago. Do you know, and Miss Clarabelle went missing around that time. Do you know where that child went or what happened to Miss Clarabelle? Or anything unusual?
She says, I think I know who the child is, the one you speak of. He's a boy.
Mhm.
I remember him because he could see me also. Though I don't think he was interested in me. But he could see me. And then she says, let me take a look at the clues, actually, real quick. Okay, yeah. She says, he likes to steal things. He steals Bibles, but then he puts them back. But not before tearing out pages from them. Don't you think that's a weird thing to do?
Must be something that he doesn't like in them.
He says, must be. And yeah, that's your clue. You can get a more precise version of the clue if you find one of these Bibles.
Okay.
Max,
This is actually just a thing that happened last time, which is
Oh.
that when I sat in Julius's lap, he was holding a Bible with the
that's
story
right.
of Noah's Ark.
Oh, so you have this clue. You have this clue already.
Yeah, it just
we
wasn't
have
on
an
the
extra
list.
clue.
We just didn't write it down. Okay, got it.
Oh,
got it.
I thought that was just sort of like a lowercase c cap.
No, that was it. That was, I remember it now. That was a capital C clue. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So she confirms that for you.
Okay.
This is true, as it turns out. And there is a connection, and I'll give you a different clue. I wondered if maybe we had done that already, because it's my go-to clue on this one. I really like that one a lot. Okay, instead, she says, or she tells you that, and then she says, he steals things. He also steals flowers. And she says, I've seen him do it. There's a woman who comes by selling flowers from time to time. And he always takes out the lilies when she's not looking. And then she raises quite a fuss, stomping around in the night, complaining about her missing lilies. That's your other clue. That's the clue you're getting here. Let's cut back over to Ms. Sand. Ms. Sand, I think you come out of your fugue state holding the ballet shoe of this boy. And interestingly, something you didn't notice before, but you notice now, is that this young dancer actually has something in his shoe. It's a necklace of a symbol. You've probably seen it before. It's a sort of symbol of Islam. And it's sort of wrapped up in the chain, tucked into the shoe. And then you hear a voice over your shoulder. It says, "It was very difficult getting here to see you right now. I had to take the tunnels beneath the city in order to reach it safely. You know, sunlight and all that.
Yeah.
But tracking you was very easy indeed. Don't take this the wrong way, but you give off a very particular scent.
Hmm. Something like a tarnished penny, I'm told. And
It's Julius.
yeah, I turned to face him. And I said, I was hoping to see you again. Albeit I was hoping to see you again somewhere a little more private. You see, I have
This is-
some specialty. Oh, sorry, go on. I didn't mean
He says,
to.
"Oh, well, it's a sort of privacy, don't you think? That boy on
Absolutely.
stage seems very, very enwrapped in his practice, and there's no one else around." And he says, and here he kind of like takes the shoe from you if you let him,
I will let him.
and he rubs a bit of the blood between his thumb and forefinger, this sort of freshened blood. And he says, "It seems you and I have similar interests."
Well, there are all sorts of us who live off blood and darkness. Albeit I grow my own blood. But yes, absolutely. Seems like we have quite a bit in common.
And he looks at the boy on the stage and he says, "I could go for a middle of the day snack. I'd certainly be happy to save you a portion to do whatever it is you do."
That would be kind of you. But I actually, well, it's not him, but I know that there is a young one with a newly discovered thirst in your neighborhood.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I had plans for that one.
Yeah? And what
I
happened to those plans?
Well, yeah, sometimes I can be hopelessly careless and short-sighted about things. I'm so easily distracted. No, I turned the boy on a lark, on a dare. I had a whimsy that I thought I might like a child. But then it turned out to be far more trouble than it was worth. And he ran off. And I gather he's been discovering his particular appetites as of late, which is to be expected. I wish I could help you more with it. I do offer my apologies, though, if this is something that has complicated your life in any way.
I think in the long term, it might be for the best. But, well, in the short term, it's caused some hiccups. But I'm just hoping that those newly recruited, so the blood and darkness, end up where they belong.
Yes. Well, you have my permission to do whatever you will with the youngling. I moved on to other things.
Excellent. Well, in that case, can I join you for lunch?
Oh, yes. I think that would be
Excellent.
fantastic. And there's just a blur and a flash, and the boy is no longer on the stage. And we'll just cut away from there and let our imaginations do the rest. Mr. Goodfellow.
Mhm.
When the session is over, a woman dressed like the goddess Hecate with sort of black, sheer, sort of flowing clothing and a sort of crown of hair done up with moon-shaped pins, approaches you and she says, I'm Portia Abernathy. I'm the head of the Society Obscura. Well, my husband and I are. And I just had to come meet you. You are such a striking figure. And she sort of lets out a breath, and she says, I feel as if it's some sort of divine providence that brought you here today. Sir, what is your name?
I think Robin gives a little smile, just, Robin Goodfellow. Pleasure to make your acquaintance.
I have to say, out of character now, this is a world with Shakespeare, right? Like,
I think so.
okay. So she says, oh, like, your parents named you after the famous Shakespeare character?
Smile, still smiling, I say no. And I would like to invoke Giveth to declare her one of my worshippers.
Very good. Let's read Giveth. I think this is the first time you've done it.
Yeah.
At any time, you can declare that a side character is secretly one of your worshippers. Describe how the side characters subtly or not so subtly debases themselves before you in the scene, then scar your reflection. Whenever you make a gift of something from your personal quarters to a worshipper, they will do exactly as you say, no questions asked, up to and including destroying themselves. If you demand information from them, it may come in the form of a clue at the keeper's discretion. There's also a part of the move dealing with other hunters, but this is the one we need for now. How does Portia debase herself to show you that she's your worshiper?
I think maybe she was wearing like a Greek style mask to show that she's meant to be Hecate, and she just takes it off and kind of like bows her head towards me. And I scar my reflection as well, right?
You do indeed. Describe how the yours is a statue. Describe how that sort of strange organic statue is changing as a result.
I think maybe in terms of her being the goddess of night, the leaves, some of them turn black.
She presses up really close to you and she says, would you mind terribly if I called you my lord?
Do as thou wilt. Is there some place we could talk quietly?
Yes, my lord, there is. And she'll take you. And as she leaves, she says, I think we have the Court of the Sun King shoot coming up next. So if everyone wants to go start getting changed, I'm going to have a private chat with Mr. Goodfellow. And yeah, she'll take you off to a little side room. A little kind of storage closet practically off the Olympus Room. And she says, speak to me, my lord. What would you have me do?
I think as the door closes behind us, Robin bestows upon her a little kiss and just whispers, I want to know about Penelope Levy.
And she says, yes, Miss Levy. And here we should note that you have to give up something from your personal quarters as well.
Let's see. I'm going to give up Roger Beale's necklace and just kind of tie it around her neck because it kind of creeps me out.
She takes it and she says, a gift I shall cherish forever.
The present owner no longer needs it.
I shall cherish it even into the next world. And she presses it close to her collarbone. And then she says, yes, Miss Levy, she disappeared, you see. We have come into our possession a very, very special camera. And we believe that this camera is capable of thinning the veil between worlds, and that Miss Levy, when her picture was taken, slipped between that veil behind it into another world. But I must confess, my lord, the process by which to make the camera do this is lost to us at the Society Obscura. We all used to know the procedure. It was given to us as if in a dream, but just as easily, like a dream, it slipped from our knowledge. And now we don't know how to make it work again.
Were you present when she disappeared?
Yes, I was. My memory, though, is very dim. The only thing I can remember is the very, very strong smell of the warm spices, clove, cinnamon, nutmeg, mace. Even now, I cannot get that smell out of my nose. And your presence here almost enhances it in some way, but cut with something different. What is that, my lord?
Musk.
Like a deer?
Something like that.
And that's your clue, though.
Okay.
The strong smell of the warm spices.
I also just want to ask her, where is the camera now?
She says, oh, we may be using it for a photo shoot even tonight. Perhaps you could come by and maybe pose for a picture or two. I promise you won't disappear. Like I said, we don't know how to operate it anymore.
Model for a magic camera that sucks people into different dimensions? It sounds wonderful.
And she smiles, and she clasps your hand, and she kisses the back of it feverishly. And let's note your clue down. The strong smell of warm spices. And I think we're getting pretty close to wrapping this day phase. Let's just check in with Burnright, because Burnright does get to pose a question to, oh, you already did pose a question to the ghost, didn't you? What do you do anything to send when you send this ghost off, or do you just let her wander off?
Do you know where to go from here?
She says, no, I'm afraid I don't. I just wish the other children could see me. I wish they would play with me. I wouldn't mind being here all this time if they did.
I have a bit of a plan. If you're willing. And I take out another business card, but this time I cut my thumb with it and like rub my blood onto it.
What are you hoping to accomplish?
Give like the ghost a bit of a direction to where Hargrave House is.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I like that.
Because like I know Miss Sand, like a lot of her magic is with blood, even though technically speaking what I've done really accomplished nothing magically. Like I'm enough of like I'm superstitious enough to like believe that it may help the ghost if I hand her this business card with my blood on it to find Hargrave House.
I love it. That's good. I like that. That's good. That's a great. I don't need any rolls. That'll work. I do want to check in with Miss Sand. Miss Sand, I think that I'm going to give you a condition, which is a taste for it. You already have 3, so you have to. I'm going to ask you to replace Julius Has My Scent and mark the Janus mask, please.
Okay.
You can always mark the one for the Nutcrackers available, the Mask of Perfection. So.
Yeah, I think I do want to mark the Mask of Perfection.
So this is for everyone, the Mask of Perfection. Each hunter narrates the last time they danced, what was perfect in those moments. Maybe for you, Miss Sand, it's when you danced with Julius. I don't know, I guess we'll see. But in any case, do replace that one condition with a taste for it. And do you want to add a coda to that scene? Or are you good, Mags?
Just to make it more explicitly what I hope it would be, I think like I come back to myself naked and covered in blood, laying in the center of this stage like 3 hours later.
I love it. It's great. Not the most unusual thing they've seen at the Royal Ballet in recent days. Somehow.
I'm just going to ban all members of Hargrave House from the ballet for recreational activities.
I think it'd be, I think it would be interesting if you, like, when you open your eyes, you see in the distance in the audience, or where the chairs, the seating is for the audience, you see the gleam of those clenched white teeth. The sculptor's clenched white teeth. But we'll just cut there. And go to the dusk phase. The Ghost of Hargrave House. Would you like to steal something from a fellow hunter, Burnright?
I would also like to give something back to a fellow hunter.
Okay, very good. You can do both.
Yeah. Miss Sand, I did take your dull ritual knife. It's been sharpened.
Nice, good.
So unmark it. And I guess I'm taking a door off its hinges because
yeah.
Roger Beale's necklace is no longer in play.
Yeah, that's actually, like, that's fully removed from the game. So just do it for you. So you're taking the door, very good.
Yeah.
And I love that. And then let's take a look at day work as well. You get an option from day work.
Day work. In terms of sort of I think I find out some information about the Nutcracker threat. Because, well, as I said earlier, Mr. Goodfellow sort of invited me, well, volunteered me for something at the theater and just the general practices. I would just, just a general question of, like, is the sort of training area for the ballet dancers, the dance studio, is it off the grounds of the theater, or is it in the same building?
It's like a couple blocks away. It's in the
Mhm.
same area, but not directly connected to the theater. And I can even go a little deeper on that for you if you'd like. Because of the legendarily severe and strict and frankly abusive way that they train the dancers, it's a hidden space that you can't just walk up into unless you have been invited by Miss Gagnon.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much.
Indeed, indeed. Let's keep going. Hargrave House. Let's talk about Hargrave House. Let's paint the scene about Hargrave House. We're going to do the conservatory.
Mm.
The conservatory, and here, this is the type of conservatory that's a sort of like a back porch with like plants and things, and it's closed in glass. A former hunter in residence turned out to be the legendary killer known as Roger the Reaver. This conservatory was Roger the Reaver's favorite room in Hargrave House. Some of you might have even known him. Looking around, how do we know Roger the Reaver loved the conservatory?
I think the walls are painted like a very deep, almost black red.
There's a number of exotic plants here, but in particular, there's like a whole little section with potted yuccas that, since Roger the Reaver's absence, have begun to wither, and there's a blight on them, and it turns out that they were being composted with blood, and that has stopped.
Oh, another victim of the Reavers.
I think this would just be known to burn right. One of the shelves, like if you pay very close attention to it, you notice like there's been scratch marks at the bottom, and moving it allows you into the secret depths of the Hargrave House, and may or may not go into the secret laboratory that still exists in Hargrave House.
Right, yeah, exactly. Maybe somebody else will take up Dr. Carrion's work someday. I love it. What would everybody like to do tonight? I will warn you that it's probably not going to happen because I'm making my hard move on that failed or on that missed question. But nevertheless, I'd like to hear Mr. Goodfellow.
I have a theory about the Limehouse lurker. I think I'd like to answer the question.
Oh, let's do it now then before you make decisions. And that sounds good.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
So the question, just to remind everybody, the question is, what was the child's home life like before they returned?
Right. I think his mother was one of Julius and his coven's, blood bags. They had a relationship where she would let them drink her blood in exchange for money. And I believe that she was a former nun who left the church out of love, but her husband died, leaving her pregnant. So she raised him faithfully, read him stories from the Bible, and particularly that of Noah. Her one kind of like luxury with him was, getting buying lilies and kind of visiting her husband's grave.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Julius, became obsessed with the idea of having this child and killed her in order to turn him.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that, Julius, let's say he himself is from the Roman era.
There have been hints of that, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's not just his name. So, yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at the clues. Just we'll give the others a chance to chime in a moment. But the faded fresco is accounted for in your theory. The nun is accounted for. The Bible stories and the lilies. I like the touch of, because lilies are a graveyard flower, so that's a good touch.
I think as well that in terms of chastising him about her moral choices, he's disgusted that his mother had this arrangement with these dark creatures that ended in her death and him becoming this horrible monster.
That's a good one. And then that just leaves the bats for your theory. Do you have any thoughts on the bats?
Vampires, or maybe
I think,
or maybe a connection. Maybe the vampire connection was very strong with his mother. That maybe speaks to it. I don't know. What do you think, Max?
I just think, if he was a child, I think when his mother would explain to him why she was doing what he was doing, because he didn't like it, she would explain to him that it was either the workhouse or the convent if she didn't get this money. And so I think, having seen the horrors of the workhouse, I think he chose the convent when she died. And so I still like the idea that he's like living in a belfry and that's a transgression against vampire norms.
Yeah, but you can probably stick with the belfry thing for sure. Yeah, that's good. I mean, any extra thoughts, Bernright?
Just to add a bit more, with like the whole Noah story, it's not just the Noah in the flood. Like there's other stories like post flood in which Noah was a terrible father. And I think that really relates to like how the child views Julius as like this terrible parent who's sort of a bit of an embarrassment to him.
I love it. Are we all in agreement then? This is a pretty great theory.
Mhm.
All
All
right.
right,
Let's
I'll do the honors.
please do the honors. +2. Pretty good roll.
Gotcha. I got 5 + 2, 7. Or yeah, 7.
It's correct. The doing of it will be complicated and hard, but it is doable. You have unlocked the opportunity to recreate a scene of the young Pipsqueak vampire's home life, and then just basically dealing with vampire however you wish at that point. So either making their feeding safe or destroying them. But in any case, with all that said, then let's talk about what you want to do tonight, because remember, to resolve threats, you have to do it at night. So
Well, I have a appointment with the Society Obscura tonight, unfortunately, so vampire hunting will wait for me.
Ms. Sand?
I have a powerful interest in clearing some conditions. So if you don't mind, I'll tag along to the Society Obscura and see what I can't get up to in one of the other rooms.
Indeed, indeed. And burn rate?
Technically speaking, I'm already making plans with the Limehouse lurker because I'm setting things up for Hargrave House, apparently.
That's right, because you are wait, so what are you doing again, burn rate? You're doing what?
I
Or what do you want to
basically
do?
the way I'm planning on resolving this threat is setting up a safe place for the child to feed.
Oh, interesting. Okay, good.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
far I've invited a child ghost to live at Hargrave House. So yeah, I think Burnright's just getting a collection.
A whole
of
orphanage of supernatural children. Good. The future generations of Hargrave House. Very good. Fabulous. We'll see how that goes. Those things may or may not happen. We'll find out. Let's talk about the Janus mask prompts. I think we all have to do the Mask of Perfection. I think maybe one or two of you might have another Janus mask as well.
I just have the Mask of Perfection because Cosmic Passage is just a stat change.
Very good. What do you want to do that now? Or do you want to wait till the dawn?
I'm willing to do that now.
Okay, good.
I think the last time Burnright danced was technically a few weeks before he met Dr. Carrion. But in truth, it was after Goodfellow had set his eyes on Burnright. And Burnright is in his apartment, and it's completely been disheveled. Everything's a mess. And there's this random lady just picked off the street, and she's sobbing and crying and begging Burnright to let her go. And Burnright is just laughing as they danced. And like, they just keep on dancing and dancing, and like Burnright, his feet, he's not wearing any shoes, and like the wood is kind of crooked at odd angles, so like there's splinters in his feet and he's bleeding, but still he dances as though he's achieving something.
Fabulous. Ms. Sand or Mr. Goodfellow, would you like to do Janus mask? Or wait till the dawn?
I will wait until the dawn.
I think the last time Helena danced was actually when she came back to Hargrave House to sleep it off after the evening with Julius. And that she's usually very physically restrained when awake, but when she closes her eyes, she sees the dark entities around her. And after the blood feast, everyone was exuberant. And so Helena left her body to dance with them in the empty halls of Hargrave House.
I love it. It's very good. And with all that said, let's press forward. The unseen. Okay, taking a look at our unseen prompts, our unseen options here. I think tonight we are going to spend some time tonight we are going to do the cult of the pig. This is the second row, second over from the left, if you wish to follow along. A secretive cult dedicated to the pagan swine god Mok has gathered in a fashionable salon on this holy night to make offerings to their deity. Everyone's doing paint the scene. The second prompt will be for Mags. The third prompt will be for Chaotic. The fourth will be Sasha. Let's take a 5-minute break, take a look at your prompts, and we'll come back and do the night phase. The cult of the pig. Everyone, how has this otherwise sumptuously decorated salon been changed to make it a ritual space dedicated to an ancient pagan pig god?
I think they put up a dais, like a stone column, and on top of it is a severed pig's head.
I imagine that at this particular meeting, this gathering, that it is a feast. And instead of having a table, it is a pig trough filled with all sorts of foods.
The debris from the feasting is scattered all over the floor. And this room has in fact been made quite a mess even before such debris.
Thank you. Ms. Sand and Mr. Goodfellow, sounds like you are going to the Society Obscura together or showing up separately.
I think we probably split the cab fare.
Excellent.
Let's just have the moment in the cab. I always like these little cab moments.
Yeah, I think you see kind of Robin kind of dressed to the nines, and I think he's still even in the cabin, primping, look good. He wants to look good for his close-up.
I think Miss Sand is dressed relatively plainly, almost as if she had raided Bernright's wardrobe. She's wearing a plain suit that obscures a lot of her instead of the normal skirting that she wears. And I think she looks up at Robin and says, it's a shame that you already had plans, because I was planning to invite you back to my workshop. I think it might be good for you to learn a way to feed that doesn't involve messing up people's lives.
Well, each their own, Helena. And I think he kind of looks at her out of the side of his eyes like, you could have made an effort. We aren't going down to the pub for a round.
I have no intent of getting my picture taken. I have easy enough trips to the next world without the aid of a camera.
Oh, I'm sure. See Julius lately?
We had a lovely lunch today. I'd tell you about it, but I don't want to make you too jealous.
I'm not the possessive kind, but as to Julius, well, to each their own, I suppose.
How
You
are you
went
dressed,
for it.
Mr. Goodfellow?
I think maybe just a really long, kind of extravagant velvet frock coat. He has his crown on, of course. I think he's got like a vest on that's sort of like a burnished gold, like sort of an autumn day sort of thing. And I think he's got these really nice, tall, shiny black boots.
We can keep the scene going. Sorry, I just wanted to picture that in my head.
Oh, I was just going to say, don't pretend you didn't go for it. I could taste you on him.
I mean, that was before I knew as to his nature.
Oh, what, you don't like it when they might live as long as you do?
Well, I prefer them young.
You arrive at the Society Obscura, pay your cab fare, ring the bell, and you hear once again the pitter-patter of Periwinkle's feet as he goes to get the door. And Periwinkle is dressed in, it's sort of like a half Marie Antoinette kind of situation. He's wearing like a corset but no gown, and a wig, kind of like styled up high white wig, and he's got face powder and such on, and he's wearing long stockings, but no shoes. And he says, "Mr. Goodfellow and guest, everyone here is very, very excited to see you, sir." He says, and he kind of swallows hard. Perhaps you would like to share the spotlight tonight during the session.
Don't worry. I am planning my own festivities during the shoot. So if you get bored competing with this one or frustrated, just come get me, and I'm sure I can make the spotlight focus somewhere else.
Periwinkle says, "Well, of course, I've been given instructions to let Mr. Goodfellow have the run of the place, and I assume that extends to you, madam. Perhaps you would like to set up in the Maharaja's palace room."
That would be fine. I would be happy to set up anywhere you might suggest. I just hope that you can set me somewhere with either a dark carpet or textiles that are otherwise resistant to staining.
He arches an eyebrow, and I think we'll cut the scene there, unless you have anything to add, Mr. Goodfellow. We can't, Sasha, I don't know if you've been talking, but we can't hear you. I don't know if you're...
Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
Very good. And Burnright, I think you're making your preparations as you've indicated. When you hear noise coming from Mr. Goodfellow's room upstairs.
Oh no.
Someone is rummaging around upstairs. What do you do?
I imagine I keep several useful implements in my room, and I imagine I have a decently sized stick. I'm going to grab that and head up to Goodfellow's room because Mr. Goodfellow is out at the moment with Miss Sand. No one should be in his room right now.
You go into the room and you see Julius standing there. His blonde hair hanging long down towards the small of his back facing you. And he has one of Mr. Goodfellow's shirts, and he's like inhaling the smell very strongly. And he turns and he says, "Oh, you're not who I was hoping for."
No, you just missed him.
"Yes, I can see that. And is Miss Sand here?"
No, they're out together.
"Oh, I'm not doing very well tonight, am I? Oh, well, here we are.
At least
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name last time."
I didn't either catch yours, so
Julius, like the Caesar.
burn right.
"Well, Burnright, perhaps you could get me a drink."
Sure. But honestly, I would expect someone like you would be a little bit more stealthy.
No, I gave up on creeping about in the shadows, well, centuries ago. Much better to be more direct, you know. I actually used to live in this place. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
This was my room, in fact. It hasn't changed too much. It certainly has a different sort of smell now. What do you suppose that smell is that I keep smelling?
Deer musk?
Yes, I think that's probably right. And then you hear downstairs, ding, 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 ding.
I shall fetch you your drink in a moment, but I rather think you wouldn't want to be disturbed right now.
He says,
And I will head.
He says,
head
"I think
down.
that's my drink at the door."
Oh,
And we cut back over to the cult of the pig. Mags, Mock demands a sacrifice of riches. What does the cult offer him? Describe the manner of the offering.
I think one by one, each member of the cult steps forward, and at this dais that's been set up as an altar, they lay down something that's obviously an antique piece of silver or other formal dining accoutrement, but just one piece. The implication being that the rest of the set is somewhere now greatly lessened in value. And as each one puts it at the base of the dais, they lower their trousers and relieve themselves on it.
Mr. Goodfellow, you are taken into a very, very interesting portrait studio in the Society Obscura, where the Abernathys and their various guests are there. And they're all just dressed in their normal street clothes. There's no particular theme going on in this room. This room is the astral plane room, a strange room painted in dreamy grays and silvers. Everyone, there are objects arranged all over that seem to be from another world or time. Describe one.
I think there's a silver, eating implement that is curiously similar to the one at the Cult of the Pig.
Any other objects from another world or time found in the astral plane room?
I suppose if any member of Hargrave House was specifically looking at it, there is just a stack of like loose business cards, all gold adorned, and it's very beautiful. But it says on it, Zeke Porter, Hargrave House.
Intriguing.
Places from or things from another world or time. I think that the things themselves are not from another world or time, but there are ornaments, glass baubles hanging down from the ceiling, but they are all made of particularly clear glass, so that as people move around the room from any vantage point, the shape of their form becomes distorted and they appear otherworldly.
Ooh, interesting. The Abernathys greet you, Mr. Goodfellow. Portia is still kind of dressed in her wispy blacks and grays and silver. And you haven't met Cyrus yet.
Nope.
Cyrus is wearing a form-fitting white bodysuit, which is tight in all the right places. And there are silver cords wrapped around his arms, legs, and neck. And he's wearing a moon-shaped mask. And he says,
"Ah, this is the alluring Mr. Goodfellow. My wife hasn't been able to stop talking about you all day."
Charmed, I'm sure.
and Portia says, "Oh, my beautiful lord, my muse, are you here to be photographed by the camera?"
I must say, I'm very curious about this. It should be quite a show.
And you see it. And indeed, the Whateley camera, as described earlier, and from the notes that Hargrave House has on it, it just looks like a regular, like, you know, tin plate type camera. There's nothing like particularly special about it from the outside. And Portia says, "Please, this way." And she leads you over to it. Meanwhile, Miss Sand, you are in the Maharaja's palace room. And I can't remember if there's a paint the scene for that or not. Oh, there is. So this room is wildly colorful, but the camera can never capture it because of the limitations of the technology. Describe something particularly vivid in color that people in the future will not be able to properly appreciate in black and white or sepia tones. That's for everyone, of course.
There's a throne in the center of this room that has been made. The base of the throne is this elaborate mosaic tile work, and the throne itself has been sculpted out of stained glass. And so when the light hits this throne, it is vibrant with this particular blue color with accents of scarlet and gold throughout.
I imagine on the walls that this tile pattern continues and like it's in different vibrant colors, but it's all the same shade. So when it gets photographed in sort of the sepia tones, it looks like it's just very plain tiles next to another, all the same color.
I think there's a rug with a very elaborate pattern. You know, it's several deep colors. However, when you photograph it, they all sort of blend into one another. You can't quite make out the intricacy.
So Miss Sand, what are you doing in here?
Mostly just waiting. Once I get my opportunity, what I want to do is actually keep an eye on Robin. So I am intending to sneak. Everyone in the building presumably will be in that room. So I'm hoping that I can sneak and engage myself just outside that door. But in the meantime, I am preparing. And so in doing so, I put the living, like the life-size doll in the throne in the Maharaja's palace room, and I pull out a kit that looks like a morphine kit that a drug user would use. And I spend some time carefully finding a vein in my forearm, stick the needle in, and there's a little piece of tubing that comes from that vein, which I put in the mouth, which is a fully articulated mouth of this life-size doll. So that there's a steady drip of my blood into the mouth of this doll.
Very intriguing. I think at that point, as you're doing that, Periwinkle comes back into the room, the Maharaja's palace room. He is dressed, he looks like Aladdin. He has like sort of like puffy silk white pants and a little vest, and he's barefoot again, except he has little jewels on his feet. And he says, "My goodness, madam, what are you doing?"
Well, I'm inviting the spirit in so that this doll can hold you. I know you've been suffering from the lack of attention, but if you just sit right here, and I gesture to the lap of the doll, I'm sure that my friends would love to give you some attention. And if it's okay at that moment, because I am trying to call one of my dark entities into the doll, and I think that would be a great moment for the doll to animate just a little bit.
I love that's good. I love it. We'll cut there. Burnright, do you answer the door?
Of course. Who's at the door?
There is a woman, probably a lady of the night based on her dress. She's wearing what would be a very, very fancy dress to somebody with low taste, and it's seen better days, and entirely too much makeup and perfume. And she says, I was told to be here at this time by a Mr. Julius.
Yes, if you will follow me.
She's like, oh my goodness, look at this place. Gosh, it's like being in it's like something out of the Grand Guignol, isn't it? It's frightening terribly. I've been no offense, but I feel like I should have my eyes open for Dr. Frankenstein or something.
It's certainly not the worst place I've lived at, but it's comfortable, it's warm.
So where is this Mr. Julius? Where should I find him?
He is currently upstairs.
Oh, I'll show myself. And then she goes up the stairs, and she's just looking at Hargrave House because it's a lot to take in if you've never been there. And then you hear behind you, ding, 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 ding.
All right. Who else is at the door at this hour? We're not having a parade of people just entering Hargrave House.
Ding, 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 ding.
I will open the door.
There are a pair of young men, twins, by the sort of frayed edges of their cuffs. They look like they are perhaps, maybe not street people, but certainly not the kind of people who should be hanging out in Belgrave Square. And they say in unison, we're here for a Julius.
I will let them in. This is Julius's problem. Like, how much does he need to drink, honestly? As I like think to myself.
Julius comes to the top of the stairs and he's like, oh, wonderful, wonderful. The gang's almost all here. Come up, please, please.
How many people did you invite, Julius? I'd rather not be standing at the door all night.
I would just stay by the door. It's probably best. Efficiency and all that. Let's go back to the cult of the pig. Chaotic. Mock demands a sacrifice of status. What does the cult offer him? Describe the manner of the offering.
I imagine as Sand described them like opening their pants, I imagine they also start taking off their shirts and they before they actually put them on the altar, they snip them for the last time because they all get naked as though they were children before this altar. They are not worthy of just even speaking at this moment.
Mr. Goodfellow, being photographed by the camera, by the Whateley camera, is, interestingly, it's the information move with sensitivity. You might learn something about it
All
if you're
right.
open to that.
Sounds good to me.
Roll with sensitivity, and based off of your conditions, just roll sensitivity. No additional thoughts.
Okay, that's a 7.
Very good. There is the flash of the flash powder, and that's sort of like smell of ether or sort of, sort of a chemical smell in the air. And I think that you will notice something that is unusual indeed. On the floor, as you're having your photo taken, you notice that the floor has been marked with chalk marks that appear to be a very, very complex mathematical equation marked out on the floor all around the portrait space. That's your clue. And after they take another photo of you, Mr. Goodfellow, Portia says, "My lord, the camera loves you, just as I love you, just as all should love you. I can tell, even as I touch it now, it is practically thrumming with some sort of interior life. It is roused by you, my lord. It is alive."
I want to see the picture.
And we'll come back to that. Take the condition marked by the Whateley camera. Ms. Sand. Periwinkle is nervous, but accustomed to doing what he's told. And so he sits down. Where is he sitting? With the mannequin?
In the mannequin's lap.
Oh, very good. He says, "Well, this is certainly an unusual tableau, but I'm equal parts excited and nervous, madam."
So I'm going to reach out with my hand and press the thumb of my right hand into the mannequin's mouth to wet it with my own blood, which is there. And then I'm going to just reach out and touch Periwinkle with said same hand and dab a little like thumbprint of blood on each eyelid. And say, "You see, I know you long for the attention of that crowd, and I'm so sorry that my companion has taken it from you. However, I have brought my own crowd that all longs to adore you." And yeah, with that, I was just trying to make him see the dark entities that are always around.
What are you hoping to accomplish here? Even out of character, what are you hoping happens?
I I am hoping to have an intimate scene with Periwinkle as the recipient of whatever intimacy the dark entities have to offer. Ideally in the hallway outside of the room where Goodfellow is having his picture taken.
Do you just
So
want,
that-
I mean, just out of character, do you just want Goodfellow to eventually join the scene? Is that
I want Goodfellow to eventually join the scene so that it's the vulnerable move. And I also know that Periwinkle is jealous of Goodfellow. So I want Periwinkle to be watching Goodfellow get adored.
Okay.
And that's just me being terrible. And I'm sorry.
Well, so Goodfellow, are you okay with that eventually being the culmination of the scene of you going into the Maharaja's palace room?
Definitely.
Very good. We'll just conclude with that when we come back then. Burnright. Ding, 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 ding.
All right. Gonna open the door again.
At the door is another woman, and she says, are you Julius?
No, he's upstairs.
She's like, ooh, this is very fancy. I'm not often allowed in through the front door at houses like this.
I'll yell up again. Julius, how many people did you invite?
She comes in, and Julius comes back up to the top of the stairs and says, well, I was hoping that Ms. Sand and Mr. Goodfellow would be here tonight. I had plans. I was hoping for a bit of a party, but it looks like it's just a party of one plus guests now. Unless you care to join in, Burnright?
Do you really want me to join in, Julius?
No, but at this point, well, honestly, this lot that's here right now in the room, they're completely dull. Never ever play with your food.
I think at this point, Burnright still has the mask that Mr. Goodfellow had given him. Don't think he ever really put it down, or at least put it out of his pocket. I think Burnright actually puts it on again. I think I'm going to march up to Julius wherever this party is happening.
Ding, 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 ding.
I'm not answering the door.
He's like, Burnright, be a dear and grab just, that's probably it.
I will grab Julius by like the scruff of his head. I've had enough.
This mask is a very interesting choice, Burnright.
I think this mask really refers to what I'm truly am. You have your fangs and I have mine. You answer the door.
He's like, "Arr, wow." He's like, fine. And he like pushes you off and sort of sulkily goes down the stairs. And you hear him opening the door. And Goodfellow's room is kind of a chaotic mess at this point because they're all partying in Goodfellow's room. And we cut our last stop at the cult of the pig. Sasha, Mok demands a sacrifice of blood. What does the cult offer him? Describe the manner of the offering.
I think as they're doing their ritual, two members of the cult lead in this, gentleman who's kind of stumbling along, clearly drunk. He's like, oh, what's this? What's happening? And all the others kind of crowd around him and lead him to a door. They open it, and it's like a staircase leading into the basement. And you can just hear, like a snorting, like pigs honking, dozens of hundreds. And I think as he's kind of like peering in the dark to see a good look, one of them pushes him down the stairs and they close the door as he screams.
It will probably take some time to develop the photos. I don't know how these cameras actually work, but let's just assume you can't look at them right away. I think, however, you will hear some you will hear Ms. Sand and Periwinkle in the Maharaja's palace room, which is across the way. And you might even overhear your name. What do you do?
I think I kind of like grimace. I was like, I want to know as soon as that photo is ready. Now, pardon me. And I head towards the Maharaja's room.
So, Ms. Sand, give us a scene.
I think you walk in and I am kneeling in front of the throne. Periwinkle has been stripped naked, and the mannequin is holding Periwinkle's throat in his hands as Periwinkle is sprawled nakedly in invitation in the mannequin's lap. And I said, "Oh, good. You got here just in time for the fun bit."
My dear Miss Sand, you've been holding out on me.
I never said that you can't have fun. I simply said that spirits are fun.
I think perhaps you have a point, Helena. And I think he kind of like goes towards the bed and just sits on it cross-legged, kind of watching enraptured.
This is the vulnerable move. I mean, despite the fact that, there's no other hunter there, so it counts as the vulnerable move. You both are entitled to clear a condition if you can make that work in the scene, and Ms. Sand is entitled to a bonus, which can be either a clue, or you can invite Mr. Goodfellow to ask you a question about the past, which you must answer truthfully. But you both can clear a condition if you wish. Outside.
So I think for my part, the place where I had the burns was the inside of my thighs because I was burned by the wax frog catching fire as I straddled it and pinned it to the ground. And so I think due to the location that the dark entities give me attention, that their attention there is healing for the inside of my thighs. And I am very torn on I think as a bonus, maybe a clue would be.
Yeah, that's great. You can define it if you wish, or I can give you a clue. It's up to you.
I think I would be happy to take a clue.
From the threat, okay, sure, or from the list. Yeah, while this is all going on, Ms. Sand, you will notice in the room, there is a script for a play a play that you've never heard of before, and it seems to have been casually discarded in the room, just tossed in the corner. The script is called Ecstasies of the Pythia. And that's connected to the events here at the Society Obscura and is therefore a clue. And Mr. Goodfellow, are you clearing a condition as well?
I would like to clear burned. I think kind of
For the same
watching
reasons.
I think, watching the scene, sort of feeling the dark entities whirling around, the sort that he normally doesn't really consort with, but he's been convinced to sort of accept that power, and in return, it heals his wounds.
Is Periwinkle dead by the end of this?
No, I want Periwinkle to be very much alive.
Okay.
But also, I mean, even if he's a willing participant in a ghost orgy, I think that there will be emotional scars. So,
I mean, Periwinkle's probably seen a lot, so it might surprise you, but
yeah.
this is the end of the night phase for the two of you, so maybe just give us a little bit at the end here. What does it look like?
I think at the end, there's a scene of Missandei and Robin standing in the doorway, both fully clothed and almost entirely composed, such that perhaps only Burnright would be able to tell that something went on. But behind them, Periwinkle sprawls, completely debauched and still nude in this throne. And I think Missandei runs across the hall and grabs the Whateley camera and snaps a photo of him, which is not really a quick process using a camera like this. But
I mean, the Abernethys, the society is into some
Yeah.
really weird shit, so they probably will help you if you want it.
I think Robin could probably leverage his connection with Portia to,
Yeah.
get support.
Absolutely. Do you want to add anything, Robin, before we leave this scene?
I think you just kind of watching Helena take the picture and just kind of smiles devilishly, and he's like, "My dear Miss Sand, I love the way you think."
Burnright. At a certain point, all of Julius's guests have arrived,
Mhm.
and they are going to retire to Mr. Goodfellow's room and close the door behind them. Do you go in or do you stay outside?
I go in. As much as I'm Goodfellow's, Goodfellow is mine.
And Julius says, Burnright, there are things that are going to happen in this room tonight that you might find rather disturbing. Are you sure you want to be here for that?
Listen, Julius. If you're going to spill so much blood in this room that it will make a mess of things, I'd rather know now so I can grab a towel or at least something beforehand.
Oh, you're going to need a lot more than a towel, Burnright. Quite a lot more. In fact, you might want to start pulling down the drapes from other rooms.
Then honestly, like a recommendation for relocation because honestly, this room gets used more daily than
Oh, no,
one
no,
of
no,
this.
no, no. I assure you, your employer is going to love it. It's my tribute to him.
I think this is less about my employer loving this and more or less what I have to clean up. There's a place for things of this nature, and it's in the basement.
Very well. It looks like we're moving the potty to the basement. And they all go downstairs, and that concludes the night phase. Let's go to the dawn. Quite a dawn indeed. No threat was resolved, so no rewards. Let's do dawn questions. You all did answer a capital Q question, so you get that one. No threat was resolved. However, we might have gotten an echo in the night. Burnright, did you have an echo in the night?
Yes.
Which one?
Basically, when they were taking off their shirts, they sniffed them. It's an echo
That's
to
very good.
Julie.
Yep, great. Love it. Did you subtly express sexual desire for your employer in the way you dress them or serve them?
I don't know about this one because, like, I very much hit on the nature of my obsequious behavior towards my employer in front of others by defending his room,
right?
as best of my ability.
Yeah,
but
I'll take that one for sure. Yeah,
but I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether it's sexual because of my possessiveness of Goodfellow.
No, I think the other one applies more. The did you demonstrate obsequious behavior towards others? Yeah, I think the way you handled Julius definitely informs that. Mr. Goodfellow, do you have an echo in the night?
Yeah, I think so. Mentioning the part of the matching set at the Society of Skira as
that's
that
right.
cult meeting.
Yeah, that's right. Did you let someone touch you and then make them pay a price for doing so?
I think so, kissing Portia and then like questioning her.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And making her a worshiper. Did you express a clear preference for the beautiful over the mundane?
I did, insult Helena's wardrobe in the carriage.
That's right, you did. Yeah, that's right. Very good. Ms. San, did you experience an echo in the night?
I was hoping that stripping Periwinkle as the worshippers of the cult were stripped was.
Oh yeah, good. No, I'm
okay
into it. Yeah, I'm totally into it. Did you perform a ritual? Yes.
Yes.
Did you make love to a dark entity because it felt good? Yes.
Julius.
Indeed. And arguably even the orgy scene as well. Yeah.
Sure.
Yes, multiple times. Only one XP, but multiple times. It is in the bag. So everybody mark your XP and we'll keep going. You can change your dawn questions if you wish or leave either or both the same. Memory is the servant for a factotum. What memento are you claiming from the night?
I'm with how things went down with Julian, I'm going to claim a jar of blood.
Fantastic. And are you giving it away or keeping it?
I'm giving it away, and I'm giving it to Goodfellow as sort of proof of what Julius has done in our house.
There's going to be much more than that, I assure you. You can go ahead and keep that jar in your personal quarters, Mr. Goodfellow, and mark XP Burnright. Or Burnright marks XP. Fabulous. And that just leaves any unresolved Janus mask, which I think is maybe just that one mask of perfection.
Yeah. So I think you're gonna see Robin back in the kind of underground grove where his statue is. It's a similar scene to the Unseen a few weeks ago where there was an orgy there. But now it's just a bunch of people in states of undress dancing around the grove. And Robin is in the center with a man wearing a golden mask. And I think you see, that it's not just kind of Robin's casual, lasciviousness. Like you see, he has like real, true affection for this other person. And I think that's it.
Fabulous. I love it. That concludes our session. Let's go to Stars and Wishes. Quite an eventful session, as it tends to be with this group. Let's I'll kick off today. Stars, I had a great time, and I really loved so many different things that took place this session. I like that this group leans into the erotic and sort of very erotic and kind of sexual elements of the game. I think probably of all my groups right now, this is the one that does that the most, and so that's really fun to watch. And I star to Mags because Ms. Sand is just going into some really, really dark places, and I'm kind of here for it. I think it's great. It's kind of how I always imagined the vessel to be, you know? They sort of just incidentally solve threats, you know, while they are busy dealing with their dark bullshit. I really enjoyed the scene with the whole night phase with Burn. It was very, very fun. That bit of levity, I think, made the rest of it kind of really come alive and go down easier. So that was really fun. And I really enjoyed the use of the Mask of the Tiger condition there. I thought that was really terrific. And Goodfellow, I thought making Portia a worshiper was a great use of Giveth, and it really changed the whole nature of that encounter at the Society Obscura. I mean, it basically gave you all like carte blanche to do whatever you want at the Society Obscura, and that was really fun to see. So,
Cults are fun.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed they are. I'll save my wishes, but those are my stars.
Yeah, I got it. Like, certainly this session, I've like, even though technically Burnright did not get a scene with Goodfellow, but having Goodfellow just exist somewhere else within like the sort of session actually gave a lot more. It turned the session like differently, like from how Burnright was acting before to how Burnright was acting afterwards, because like it felt like I had somewhere to go with stuff, even though I had no like sort of like interactions. And I really like how independent Burnright is, like, and how compared to other factotums I've seen, he's a lot more confident in some regards. Whereas some days it's just like he just is very, very awkward, and I just love the dichotomy within him. But I gotta give a hand to like all the scenes with Goodfellow and Miss Sand. It's just a very interesting dynamic, this sort of frenemy going on. And I always loved Julius.
Definitely love Julius as well. And again, that scene with the tiger mask was so great, you know, seeing Burnright stand up for himself.
I really felt like the son's relationship with both of you was clarified a little bit today, which I just really liked, because yeah, major star for the scene of you handing over the bloody business card to the ghost. Like I thought that was a perfect scene. Sorry, you as in chaotic, as in Burnright handing over the bloody business card. Because of Burnright's open disdain for Miss Sand. So just being like, oh, but I have learned something. Here's some of my blood was really, I liked that a lot. And then the fact that the kind of banter and barbs didn't go away with Robin, but that we did have that scene together. And so I was happy with both of those things. I also, yeah, I just enjoyed the day phase. I really liked the scene at the school in general. So major stuff for that. And I think a wish is to see a little bit more of the resolution of Burnright and Robin's relationship. Not that, yeah, just so that it really crystallizes with who Burnright's employer is and what that relationship has been.
I'm looking forward to the Nutcracker threats because I'm specifically gunning for the how does the Royal Ballet train its featured dancers, because like I know how that move works a little, and I'm very excited for it.
It's really dark, and I think the group has opened up a place for that darkness, right? Like this is very much like Hargrave House as the villains of the story sort of version of Hargrave House, right? So I think it's pretty great.
Mhm.
And that Dance of the Nutcracker move is like big time that, right? So it's very interesting. Sasha, do you have any stars or wishes?
No, just great as always. And I guess the one wish should be, getting resolving the Limehouse lurker and seeing more of Julius.
Yeah, my wish, I hope we get to see the sculptor again. I think we will. And I hope we get to see the Beacon in the Dark vessel move, because I love the Beacon in the Dark. It's a really, really fun move. And so I hope we get to see that. And yeah, I really like it when Goodfellow turns people into worshipers. Like that's a fun dynamic.
Mhm.
You can't do it too much because because of the masterwork, but you can eventually clear those, so it's not the end of the world.
Right.
But I hope we can see it more.
Oh,
Definitely.
yeah, I'm oh I speaking of like looking forward to like more uses of moves, I'm thinking about a custom move, especially like I think the Mask of the Tiger has to become a custom move at this point.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool actually. Yeah, I would like that. Oh, another star is I like the I love the ongoing deer musk joke.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Is it a joke? Who
Yeah.
knows?
Who knows? I want to do like some pranks with Goodfellow just to
Oh,
ask
yeah.
what's the deal with the deer musk? I've got to know.
I love it. If there are no other stars and wishes, I have a little stinger scene for you. We are standing outside the door of the ritual chamber, which I believe is in the basement, correct?
Mhm.
And we see Miss Sand perhaps going into the ritual chamber, as Miss Sand probably does on a regular basis. And inside, we see that Julius has left a gift inside the ritual chamber. It is a perfect replica of Mr. Goodfellow's statue, except it's not made with vine and moss and branch and twig. It is instead made with rib cages and femur bones and blood and viscera. And with that, I will see you all next time. Enjoy your week.